Hello, my shopties. Also, OMG, hi. Thank you for the raid, XLR. I don't know when you raided. It wasn't there for a second there. Hi, welcome. I'm sorry, we were on break. But thank you so much for the raid. That was awesome. Welcome in, welcome in. What did you guys play? What did you guys do? I'll give a shout out. Let's see. Shout out. Right, there we go. And also, I'm gonna try and shout out the last person that rated me. Cause, yeah. But hello, welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you guys so much for rating. I appreciate that a lot. Like, a lot. But let me just... see. Trying to find... there it is. Ta-da-da-da. Alright. Shout out. Okay, because I forgot to do that, I have that set up for when my shout out time goes down. But hello everybody, we're back! Really quickly, there's something I just remembered that we can do, and I'm gonna see. I think this is something you can do. If I remember. I think there's something you can do where in the settings menu, you can just set all the sliders to maximum numbers. But I gotta... hold on. I think there's a way to do it. But no, welcome in, Raiders. I don't know if it'll let me because I've already gotten the... I don't think it will let me because I've already gotten the trophy. So maybe not. Oh well, that's okay. Yes. Okay. Oh well, we'll just begin the game. That's okay. No big deal. I can shut this one out. Alright, so this person, Kaidu, rated us earlier, so go give him some love, because he's really awesome. He's really sweet.
This is the story of a man named Stanley.
Oh
Stanley
boy.
worked for a company in
Oh
a
boy.
big building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard. Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy. And then one day, something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened, this complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office.
That's totally fine, Chatnubis. Take as long as you need. We don't want to rush anybody with special needs for obvious reasons. Anybody with a disability is valid, yada yada yada. We all know the shtick, because I am very pro accessibility due to my own need for accessibility. So, you know, take your time, that's fine, there's no worries. I'm glad that you are okay, though, and that you're still in the stream. Oh, fuck yeah, Wi-Fi. Give me 1 second, I'm actually putting earrings in. And there's a reason why, it's because I don't want my piercings to close anyway. So I just have to put earrings in. Where's my emotional support bucket? I want my bucket. Where the fuck is my bucket?
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
I don't feel
No matter
safe
how
without
hard
my
Stanley
bucket.
looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers.
Where's my bucket? My bucket.
Stanley picked up the bucket.
Okay, so the first thing I want to do is I want to try and clip out of the map with the bucket. Oh, yeah. Come on. Can't believe I found this ending. Yeah.
Yes, whispered the bucket into Stanley's ear. We've done it. We've escaped from that dull office and that pesky narrator. At last, out here in the white void, we are alone. Now, and for the first time, I can reveal to you my true self. The bucket began to tell Stanley of its life and its history, of the countless wars it witnessed, desecrating the land and lives of untold numbers of innocent humans, and the bucket's own complicity therein, of sadness and regret, and the many years it spent dwelling on the actions it might have taken to curb the madness and the decay, if only it had been stronger, of hope and redemption, and its crusade to uplift the stock of life for the common man, to manifest justice where none existed, and the bittersweet reality of time, to see one's dreams and wishes met halfway, meted out in parcels like charity, and abandoned as soon as the warm glow of inspiration begins to dim. The opportunities to do so much more. There was so much it could have done, perhaps, the bucket wondered to itself. Perhaps, if it had seen its own darkness with a clearer perception. This was way too much for Stanley.
What are you talking about?
He screamed. You're a bucket!
To this, the bucket furrowed its brow.
No,
Said the bucket.
not since the evil wizard Gambhorata first ensnared me in his machinations as payback for the sacred amulet I stole from his treasured vaults. I was young back then and could not conceive the ramifications of... No!
Stanley screamed even louder this time.
This is stupid! You are a bucket! This is so stupid! Why are we even doing this?
As Stanley screamed and screamed and screamed, the bucket revealed its true form, transforming into a mighty beast of untold power, its fangs glistening like...
Oh God!
My God, Stanley, you did it! You saved us from the bucket. Thank God you already had all 12 emblems of sages and knew the incantations to summon their true power. Otherwise, we would have easily been overwhelmed by the bucket's power. I'm speechless. You've demonstrated such bravery here today.
What
Come,
the fuck?
Let's restart the game, and we'll agree to never again go trifling with this bucket, nor the dark magic cast away inside of it.
What the fuck? That's incredible. I did not expect that. Okay, I just wanted to, I thought it'd be a haha hoo hoo funny. You think that the bucket will save you from this hell, and then it wasn't that. Okay, so I don't think I could bring the bucket to the heaven ending, because the door closes before I can get to it. So that's out of the question. And I don't think I can trap myself in the first room with the bucket, because...
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
I don't wanna...
Stanley lifted the bucket into his arms, and a wave of comfort rushed over him.
Can I, like, hit the balloons? There's a balloon in the chair! Oh. I just wanna... Oh. I just wanna mess with the balloon. It won't let me mess with the balloon. I still love the bucket. The bucket is the best. Okay, so let's go through all the left door paths again. There's no new content.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
Okay.
Still no one was here. Stanley needed the bucket's warmth and comfort now more than ever. Perhaps his boss's office was where he'd find answers.
Okay.
Oh, Stanley, can you feel it? The broom closet. It wants the bucket. You can feel that, can't you? The aura of jealousy? It's as clear as day. This broom closet believes it deserves the bucket. I can really feel it now. It's a bucket. It belongs in a broom closet. That's what the broom closet is trying to say here. It's supposed to go with the other cleaning supplies. Good for you, Stanley. Don't give in. Don't hand over the bucket. I know how hard it must be, given the pressure that the broom closet is putting on your shoulders right now, but you have to be strong. This is your bucket. This is your companion and lifelong friend. You can't hand it over. Oh, no. We're getting into name-calling now, it seems. Is this how low the broom closet has sunk, that it has to resort to this stream of petty insults simply in order to get you to hand over the bucket? Stanley, I never liked this broom closet for a variety of reasons, but even this is worse than I had imagined. And wait, now the broom closet has the gall to imply that you and the bucket are not truly deep and lasting friends? That your relationship is purely superficial and convenient? that your life is so banal and meaningless that you'd feel the same sort of kinship towards any inanimate object which happened to lay in your path in an even partially enticing manner? Well, I'd never. Go on, Stanley. Lay into it. Really tell the broom closet off for its demeaning comments. Expand on the wide variety of experiences you and the bucket have shared together. Go through each of them point by point. Share your journal entries detailing the rich emotional landscape of your feelings for the bucket as they have changed and evolved over the years.
You know what? This sounds a little sus. I am not, the bucket and I are...
Okay, I've got you something which I think will help settle this debate
We're
once
just
and for
friends.
all. Here we go. There. Now it's settled. No more debate, no more discussion. Take a hike, broom closet, with all your meandering philosophical
What was that?
diatribes about the nature of cleaning supplies and their relationship to broom closets in the natural order of things.
What was it? I don't see anything different. Did he give the broom
All right,
closet a
I've got a
bucket?
second sticker back here, and I'm going to slap it on as well because
Oh,
I think it's
property of
appropriate.
Stanley.
You see, I feel that it works because the sticker is also a bucket. That way, if you're ever unsure whether the thing you're holding is a bucket or not, you can look down at this sticker and say to yourself, ah, it's a bucket. There really is a wide variety of applications for this sticker.
I want a bucket sticker. I love
You know what?
this.
I could take the name-calling and the dismissal of your kinship with the bucket, but now the broom closet is just giving us a silent treatment. And to be honest, I'm sick of the pettiness on display. You can stay here all you like, but I've had it with this impetulant room of cleaning supplies. Easily the most childish such room I've ever been in. I'll see you outside, and we can get on with the story about you and your bucket.
I see. Also, subtitles got turned off. Let me just fix that. On. There you go. Okay. Now we got subtitles back. I guess we'll leave now.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
Nah.
You found one of them. One of the miniature Stanley figurines. Remember, no reward for collecting all of these, only the intrinsic pleasure of a job well done. You can't buy that sort of happiness, Stanley. God knows I've tried. So, I implore you to
narrator
savor
depressed.
each and every moment you come across one of these beautiful figurines.
Incredible. Outstanding.
But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss, admitting he had left his post during work hours. He might be fined for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy. And then, something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. He looked down at the bucket in his arms. Am I crazy? He asked the bucket. The bucket returned his gaze, but said nothing at all. That's strange, Stanley thought. Usually the bucket is a source of guidance and wisdom for me in difficult times such as these. He held the bucket close, yet felt none of its familiar reassurance and comfort. And that's when Stanley realized, this isn't my bucket. It's just a normal, everyday bucket. Someone else's bucket, perhaps.
It has
How did
property
I
of
end up with
Stanley on it.
Someone else's bucket. This is all terribly wrong. Surely no good would come from this. Who knows what sorts of bizarre
Where'd my bucket go?
hallucinations Stanley might experience without the psychologically grounding presence of his bucket. And indeed, now he noticed that the rooms were repeating, which was, of course, very odd. And now he felt himself floating off the ground. Oh, gracious, he exclaimed. Without my bucket, I've gone truly mad. Where is it? I must find it. Far off in the distance now, he heard it, calling to him. Stanley! Stanley, it's me! The bucket! Could it truly be? He rushed forward from room to room, passing by one bucket after the next. None of them were his. None of them were his special bucket. Come to me, Stanley. Find me. He had to find the bucket. He had to return to his old friend. It was the only way to truly restore his sanity. And then suddenly, he froze dead in his tracks. He knew where the voice of the bucket had been coming from. The real bucket was inside of him all along. It was incredibly painful. Stanley doubled over in agony and blacked out.
Oh! Welcome back from the shower. We're playing the Stanley Parable.
This is the story of a woman named Mariella.
Hope your shower was good. Also, I hope your stream was good.
She arose, got dressed, picked up her bucket of comfort and security, and walked to her place of work.
Oh my god.
But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town, talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk.
She got the
Right
bucket.
away, she knew what the problem was. This man had no bucket. Of course he'd gone mad, ranting and raving about a narrator describing all of his actions and how everything is predetermined and free will is an illusion and it's all just a video game. It could all have been prevented if only he'd taken his bucket with him.
Yeah?
Perhaps he didn't even realize he'd forgotten his bucket at home in the first place. How cruel the world can be, Mariella thought, and she hugged her own bucket even tighter. But of course, she had no time for this. There were a myriad of confusing problems she would soon have to confront at work, for which her bucket would provide absolute guidance and total clarity on everything. Heck yes, she thought to herself, my life kicks ass. And she backflipped all the way to work.
And she backflipped all the way to work. You know what? And I also can't get over the narrator going, my life kicks ass. Oh no. This game is so good. Okay. So what other one should we do? Should we do the escape pod?
Just a step through this door, Stanley thought to himself, that's all I need. If I can make it through this door, I can make it through them all. The confusion and the chaos all seemed to melt away as Stanley embraced the bucket.
Okay.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
Okay, so we'll keep doing left endings, I guess. Trust the completionist instinct. How can we find them? What we know, small floating objects have appeared across the office. We have to synergize our resources to ensure their retrieval. There are many questions. There was no memo from management. How can you tell you spotted one? What makes them float in the air? Who took these pictures of them? Oh god. Fig leaves are hard to find. Follow clues provided by employee 416. We can do it. Red room? Thank you. Good luck. Okay. 416? Alright, so I'll have to look at employee 416 next. Warehouse access plan. Produce one plank to allow ease of access past fence. Construct bridge to allow collection of shiny float. Retrieve Chris's remains from warehouse floor. Construct new structurally sound bridge. Okay. Looks like 427. 5, there be just take it from me. Gotta collect them all. Mission status. Inside of a sequel exhibit, got that. A large room, lots of boxes. Some are both red and blue. Nearby a fireplace. A private but smelly place for an important that's the bathroom. Nearby a fireplace. Is this some kind of game? There must be a point to this. So somewhere both red and blue is probably in the right-handed path. I don't know about nearby a fireplace. And a large room, lots of boxes. I imagine it's the cargo area, like in the vent. So, let's keep moving forward. We're gonna try and do the escape pod ending.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
Yeah. Money in the morning, money in the evening, money for breakfast, money, Chris.
Another miniature Stanley figurine. This, you know, there really must be a snappier name for these things. What about mini stands? Stanley
stands?
What about Stanlerines? Yes, I think I like that. Another Stanlerine under your belt.
Why does Stanley kind of look very, eerie? Okay.
Stepping in.
Okay, cool. Come all the way back. All right, with my bucket. So now I can check the thing that says, which employee is it? It's the... Which employee did they say I should check with? Maybe we are the collectible. Shut the frick up. Come on, load please. 416. By employee 416, so we can check that too. 411, 412, 413. I feel like I'm about to sneeze. Oh, excuse me. Oh, I guess 416 doesn't have anything. So we're coming back this way. And we're going through the escape pod with the bucket. Thank you. Oh, yeah, 416. I checked and there was nothing there, so... Alright, so now we gotta get to floor 460. I'm guessing 416 was just like kind of a random number they put in. That's okay. Rapid fire sneeze. Yeah, it happens. It happens. But I feel better, so it's fine. Alright, we're gonna try... And... go up this way. I want to know what dialogue we get for the bucket ending of the escape pod. Because I feel like any ending where, you can bring the bucket, there's probably something for it. So literally anything that's not, like, from the get-go. Escape pod lunch bay. Where does this take me? There it is. I didn't see it. I was like, where the fuck? What is going on? Wow. We just released the bucket. He caresses the bucket. Yeah, no. Oh no. Oh, that's so funny. Oh my god. Okay, we're back here. Okay, let's.
Stanley had never seen the office this brightly lit. Was it a sign of something?
This
He
is.
hoped it was. He hoped very much that it was.
This is something we've been waiting for. Oh, I've been waiting for this. Oh, I think it's... What's the room? I think it's over here. Figurine Finders Committee meeting today in the meeting room. My bucket! No! No. Okay.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
My bucket! Okay, so here's what we're gonna do instead. Because I don't have my bucket, and the door that I wanted to try... I'm missing out, what the hell, right? The balloons say happy, I think, 12th birthday, step-niece.
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it.
There's a Stanley
But eager
figurine.
to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
So I'm just gonna go grab the Stanley figurine.
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
There's apparently a Stanley figurine in here. There it is! Gotta do some expert platforming.
Okay, I'm going back to the name of these little Stanley figurines, and now I'm torn between Stanlerines and Figlies. What do you think, Stanley? What name better encapsulates the intrinsic sense of happiness that you get from seeing a small number in the corner of your screen go up by 1? Let me sit on it. I'm sure it will come to me.
Okay. So now I'm just gonna yeet myself.
But in his eagerness to prove that he is in control of the story and no one gets to tell him what to do, Stanley leapt from the platform and plunged to his death. Good job, Stanley.
Because I
Everyone
want to
thinks
take
you
the
are
bucket to
very
the press
powerful.
conference. Since I've practically gotten almost all the endings except like a couple, I'm just gonna go back and rehash some of them because, well, you know. But I want to have the bucket.
Wait, Stanley thought to himself. Am I sure that the orders stopped coming in? How is that possible? They never stopped. Surely I was mistaken. No, the orders were still missing. For now.
Interesting. Bucket! The replacement bucket. I've gotten my bucket back.
And try not to lose this one too, you dolt.
I will probably lose it. Okay.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
Alright, we go left. Some are both red and blue and nearby a fireplace. So I bet those are both places on the other side.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
What do you mean close the door next?
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once
Fireplace.
again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life.
There's a fireplace
Crushed by
here.
the weight of this revelation, Stanley may have broken down into an emotional dumpster fire if not for the soothing presence of the bucket. Even now, in his darkest of hours, did the bucket's warmth and... But Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation.
There's got to be a Stan Loreen around here, right? Because the fireplace is over there. Yes!
You're getting close now, Stanley. You've nearly gotten all of the Figler and Marines. Very soon, you'll collect the last one, and then the first number will equal the second number, and that will be it. We'll be different people by then. Different in the sense that we used to have none of them, and now we have them all. You can't go back to when you had no Figler and Marines. None of us can.
Okay. Second. Stop it. All right. We go down. All right, and then we go back up, and then we go down, and then we go back up until the press conference spawns in.
The elevator raced downward, plummeting towards an unknown fate. It would be all Stanley could do to keep himself together, if not for the bucket. Soothing him, comforting him, reassuring that in this darkest moment of uncertainty, he would be all right. The bucket is here for you, Stanley. Everything will be fine. Wait, Stanley said to the bucket. Can we go back up? When I was pressing those keypad buttons, there was something very intriguing about the number 3. I want to go back so I can try pressing the number 3 again. The bucket said nothing.
The commentary of this game is so fucking funny. This number 3 is so interesting. I love that the narrator subtly mocks us the entire time. Now I want to try and press the number 3.
Here we are, said Stanley. Now I'm going to try out that number 3 button. He took the bucket over to the keypad and began absolutely slamming on the number 3 over and over and... Wow, he said. The number 3 is such a special button. I'm having the time of my life. Stanley looked expectantly at the bucket, but the bucket remained silent. This was a shock to Stanley, who had always felt such a connection with the bucket. How was this not as exciting to the bucket as it was to him? Once Stanley had had enough of the number 3, he got back in the elevator. Perhaps the bucket had missed something. Perhaps it had not seen how much joy Stanley got from slamming the number 3 repeatedly.
I think the narrator's getting jealous of the bucket and is trying to get me to leave the bucket behind.
A hint of regret nagged in the back of Stanley's mind. Should he demonstrate the number 3 for the bucket again? No, said Stanley to the bucket. You can't go on yet. Not till you understand how much the number 3 means to me. You and I have been through so much together, and I just want you to see what I see. Feel the happiness I feel. He smiled at the bucket, and the bucket said nothing.
We're just gonna keep going up and down and see if we can get the ending to spawn in. All right.
Here we go, said Stanley. This time I'll really show you. He ran to the number 3 and began to wail on it like a musician on a beloved instrument, weaving a concerto of truth and passion. He wielded the number 3 like a fine artist would wield a paintbrush. He told stories through the number 3, stories of his dreams and hopes and fears. And the whole time, he looked to his bucket for a reaction of some kind. Anything to let him know that the bucket appreciated what he was doing. The bucket conveyed absolutely nothing at all, only silence. Crushed by a wave of dejection, Stanley returned to the elevator.
Okay. We'll go down and then we'll come back up.
Stanley and the bucket were so close. They'd always been there for one another. Why suddenly could the bucket not connect with this passion of Stanley's? The question caused Stanley to ruminate the whole way down the elevator. He knew that there must be a way to get through to the bucket, to communicate fully with his dear friend. Surely there was a solution, mustn't there be?
Okay. Is the press conference accessible with the bucket?
Said Stanley. I know what to do. I know how to fully express this feeling in my heart. He decided right then and there that he would hold a press conference.
There it is.
Where he would speak to the public on all matters relating to pressing the number 3 over and over. He would elaborate fully on what the number 3 meant to him and why he felt so alive when pressing it. Then the bucket would be able to see his joy through the eyes of others. It would get to see the world react to this discovery of Stanley's. And it would be through the public eye that the bucket would finally understand Stanley's work.
Yeah? All
For
right.
months he advertised
Press
and
conference.
marketed his press conference, building excitement around it, developing and rehearsing it, until it couldn't be refined a single measure further. When the big day arrived, Stanley was as prepared as he'd ever been for
I love the
anything
door
in his
sound.
life. This was it. One last chance to win the bucket over. One opportunity to share a true connection with a loved one.
Yeah. Okay.
There was no one here. Nobody had come to the press conference to hear Stanley speak, to listen to him talk about what it really means to press the number 3 on a keypad over and over.
3.
He was unloved, uninteresting, he was a failure. And in that moment, Stanley knew that the bucket would never again take him seriously. There would be no connection, no deeper understanding. The bucket merely sat there in his arms, indifferent. And so it began that slowly, over many years, the two of them grew more and more distant. They spoke less and less, neither wishing to state the obvious, that any sense of real respect between them had eroded since that day at the press conference. There would be no more games, no more long conversations about passion and pursuit, only a silence that consumed the space between friends. And Stanley, having for once in his life discovered the warmth and comfort of true companionship, was cast back into the unremarkable normalcy of loneliness.
Damn. All right. So that's what happens at the press conference, which is really funny to me. Okay. So the next I want to try the escape room one, the one where you essentially go down to the control facility, but instead go to the escape ending.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Warmth spread through Stanley's arms. With the bucket in his arms again, he was home.
Nothing there.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
Yeah. Somewhere both red and blue. That's all we gotta find is the one that's somewhere both red and blue.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office. Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revel, but Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him?
Yes.
This is certainly the most logical explanation.
I have ice cream now. I'm very pleased. Nothing is better than ice cream. That may be an oatmeal cream pie. I do love oatmeal cream pies. Still not my favorite
Stanley
food,
and the
though.
bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read, Mind Control Facility.
Nah.
Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley and the bucket would both meet a violent death.
Sounds good.
The door behind them was not shut. Stanley and the bucket still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track.
I love that essentially all
Stanley
the
and
endings
bucket
were dubbed
knowingly
over.
walking forward into a very painful death for each of them.
All right.
As the machine whirred into motion and Stanley and the bucket inched closer to their demise, Stanley reflected on how meaningless the bucket's warmth and comfort had turned out to be. To be sure, it puts the mind and the soul at ease to embrace the bucket, but what use is a sense of ease when you're about to be crushed to death? This is what Stanley thought to himself, and he sort of kicked himself for wasting so much time carrying a bucket everywhere. Farewell, Stanley.
"Farewell, Stanley," cried the narrator, as Stanley and the bucket were led helplessly into the enormous metal jaws. In a single visceral instant, the bucket's life came to an end, as it was crushed violently to death. It was a shame, the death of such a magnificent bucket. It's true that all buckets are radiant in their own way, but this one stood above the rest. It was a glorious bucket to behold.
The bucket welcomes you to the grand exhibit. You are standing at the precipice of knowledge. Much like a bucket itself, the human mind is frequently empty within a cavernous void, but through use of the exhibit in front of you, the mind becomes full and enriched and substantiated. Knowledge of the bucket and its history is the only true knowledge we really have. Will you take what you learn here out with you into the world? Will you accept with an open mind what may be challenging about the information in this exhibit? Will you change the lives of yourself and your loved ones as a result of this exhibit? Or will you turn a blind eye and continue to live as you were in ignorance and darkness? The fuck is going on here?
Can you see how arrogant it was for Stanley to take a bucket like this and to claim it for his own? Can you see the hubris that blinded him? Can you see that the bucket is far more noble than Stanley will ever be in his short life?
Excuse me. 25 buckets. A photograph of 25 buckets, the greatest number of buckets ever captured on camera. The photographer experienced catatonic shock for several weeks as a result of the euphoria from exposure to this many buckets at once. I love this. Oh my god. A bucket with two handles. This bucket is depicted as having two handles. Such a design has never been created in real life, having been deemed too dangerous and recklessly experimental. Every year, dozens are put to death just for attempting it. Inferno bucket. A replica of the Inferno bucket, which in the medieval era was so powerfully alluring that it drove dozens of nations to war with one another for control of it. Billions died, and yet in spite of it all, the simple fact remains: no one can control a bucket. Oh my god. The music! Cave drawing. While we know that buckets predate the existence of mankind, we do not know by how long. This cave drawing depicts early man's discovery of the practical uses of the bucket, by which time the bucket had already likely been around for several millennia. Notice in these drawings how the bucket is allowing itself to be used, having judged humanity to be worthy of its treasures. What the fuck?
No man can own a bucket, and certainly not a bucket as dazzling to behold as this one. It is man who should kneel before the bucket.
The stress bucket and analogy. Worrying, negative forecasting, negative thinking, lack of reassurance all go in the bucket. Vulnerability equals size and strength of the bucket. Stress equals the level of water in the bucket. Coping strategies equal holes. Rest and relaxation, doing something you enjoy. Rest and relaxation. The stress bucket presented without commentary. Excuse me. The hanging bucket. This piece symbolizes the necessary relationship between bucket and humanity. However clear our grasp of the bucket may be, there is yet more that is always out of reach. This distance, inevitably, is for our own good. I want my bucket back.
But there is something we can do. Something we can do together, you and I, that will right this terrible wrong. Let Stanley die. Let him be crushed by the machine. Don't reset the game. Don't give him another opportunity to run off with another beautiful bucket. We can save the world's buckets from their treatment as tools and implements if only we let Stanley die together. The bucket shall take its place as ruler, as leader, as commander of a new world, a new vision of hope.
So in this ending, Stanley's the bad guy. They really said, kill Stanley to save the bucket. Murder Stanley! He doesn't deserve his life! God, this game is so stupidly funny. I love it.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Stanley picked up the bucket,
Bucket.
and smiled. He'd never be alone again, not truly alone, not with the bucket around.
Huh? Why is... That's not right. Hmm. This isn't right. What is this? This is weird. I want to test these doors because...
Stanley pressed the bucket upon every little thing in the office. Nothing responded to the bucket's touch, but it did little to discourage Stanley's belief in the magic of the bucket.
So I do have a thing for this one. Because this one was the one ending that I don't have other than the epilogue, and I was looking to figure out how to get it. And apparently, if the path to the two doors room changes, due to the semi-random map design, the layout will be different, and it's just weird, you know? And if you can open the door to 426, it gives us an ending. So, let me see if I can figure out how to get this ending. And if I can't get it yet, then I'll just go for a different ending real quick. That's weird. It should be accessible right now, but I guess not. That's okay. So, we'll do the bottom of the mind control facility then. That's strange. Because this should have the blue tint here.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
Oh well. We'll just keep getting bucket endings for now.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
Up here. We're moving.
Stepping into
Yes,
his
we're
manager's
schmoving.
office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revelation, Stanley may have broken down into an emotional dumpster fire, if not for... But Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer
Let me in.
luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him? Yes,
Yeah.
this is certainly the most logical explanation.
down we go.
Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read, Mind Control Facility. The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley and the bucket both wondered to themselves. But just as Stanley was about to proceed further into the mind control facility, he tripped and fell over the railing and into the dark void below. Thankfully, he fell directly onto the bucket, which safely cushioned his fall. Now, what to do next? Stanley wondered. Stanley and the bucket could find no way out of this enormous pit, and so eventually they decided that the best thing to do would be to simply get comfortable down here. So they set up a little couch and relaxed. It really wasn't so bad down here, a bit cold perhaps. After some time had gone by, they installed a few shelves as well, and a sort of kitchenette that was useful for when the bucket was craving paninis. But it wasn't until the rugs and the standing lamps came in that it really started to feel like a home.
This is so
In
funny.
fact, after some time, Stanley realized that it had been ages since he had even thought of the mind control facility at all. He'd never gotten to fully explore what was up there, never been able to unearth the many mysteries of the mind control facility. This lack of closure began to eat at him. Soon he was dwelling on his regrets, and the state of their home slowly decayed as Stanley became withdrawn and neglected the cleaning. It unsettled the bucket deeply. Stanley wasn't usually like this. The bucket tried to reach out to him again and again, but to no avail. All Stanley could think about, all he could talk about, was going back, doing it over again, staying on the path. It was a mistake to leave the path. It was a mistake. It was a mistake. I need to do what the narrator says. I need to see the true ending. This made no sense at all to the bucket, which was simply trying to live its life down here as comfortably as possible. Yet Stanley was unconsolable. This isn't an ending. This is just a hole in the ground. The bucket sighed. True, it wasn't an ending. But it's where we happen to be. And maybe, possibly, if we accept the reality of things, maybe this will become an ending eventually. It's what the bucket was counting on. The two of them waited for a very long time.
Oh no. They built a house down there and then just like suffered. I'll make the lights go the next time when I go down there, because I'm about to go down there again. So how we all feeling? Are y'all enjoying the Stanley Parable?
Stanley knew the office layout
Yeah.
like the back of his hand. It was only a matter
We got
of
this,
time
narrator.
before he found the others, wherever they were.
Nope.
The good old bucket. Just Stanley and the bucket, off on another thrilling adventure together.
Do you not like the bucket?
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest.
Almost went down the
and
right
entered
side.
the door on his left.
We will find the somewhere both red and blue. But I'm pretty sure that's on the right side. And that's an ending. I'm 99.9% sure that has an ending
Coming
attached
to
to
a
it.
staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
Alright, now we're in the boss's office.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revelation, but Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer
Look,
luck.
narrator, you're
Was it
rambling.
the bucket knew all along?
You're saying the
Was
same
the
stuff
bucket
over and over
guiding
again.
him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation.
Okay. I'm a little chilly. I put a sweat jacket on. Alright. My cat is thinking about going into the laundry basket that's now next to me. Sucky! Hi. Hi, baby. She's being a sweetheart. Alright. Let's go through here.
Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read, Mind Control Facility.
Alright, we'll turn
The lights rose
that on.
an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley and the bucket both
We'll
wondered to
start the secret
themselves.
again.
The monitors jumped to life, and Stanley nearly dropped the bucket in shock. Everyone in the office was being videotaped, monitored like guinea pigs. The bucket had never seen anything like this, and it very nearly burst into tears as Stanley cradled it gently, reassuring it that everything would be fine. Was the bucket under the mind control facility's influence as well? Had the bucket been told to do things it didn't wish to do? What kinds of things does a bucket want to do or not want to do in the first place? These questions raced furiously in Stanley's feeble mind.
I love that things go, when you get the bucket, things go from just like being all about Stanley to being about the bucket instead. Like, it's not just Stanley and the bucket. It's either Stanley and the bucket or just the bucket. Like, it has to have the bucket in some way, shape, or form. And I think that's absolutely hilarious. Let me in. Let me in. I want to activate the secret. The secret takes so long. There we go. Secret time, secret time. Yeah. Yeah. Secrets mode. My cat decided she wanted to snuggle. Come here. Oh, she's gone. What? Yeah, now go. Shoot. You know the rule. Brian. Yeah, you better. You know the rule.
No! He screamed into the bucket. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control.
Thanks the gods for subtitles.
The bucket matter. His one friend in the entire world. At this point, he could trust no one except for the bucket.
All right, well.
But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions, happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he and the bucket would dismantle the controls for good.
Nah.
Two best friends, Stanley and the bucket, up against the world. They high-fived in a really cool way, and the bucket made a sassy comment about taking down the system.
Sassy comment.
But at the last second, the bucket jumped in and pressed the button to turn on the controls. Stanley gasped in horror. Had this been the bucket's plan all along? To take over the machine and claim the power for itself? How could the bucket have betrayed him like this? Stanley was prepared to throw the bucket away in disgust
Yo.
when suddenly an image appeared upon the enormous screen. Birds. Silly, silly birds. The control buttons became active again. Stanley flipped through one video of silly birds after another, and then it dawned on him. This wasn't a mind control facility at all. It was a facility for monitoring and surveilling silly birds all over the world. The mind controls were only a facade to disguise its true intentions. Had the bucket known this all along? Stanley marveled at the metal genius in his hands, the one who had pointed him towards this incredible discovery. Stanley and the bucket never found freedom because they spent the rest of their lives here in this place, flipping through live streams of the silliest birds imaginable. Of all the possible paths his life could have taken, this one was surely the best. And Stanley was happy.
Yo. That's outstanding. That is incredible. I love that. All right. So the next one is to turn off the system's power.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
I'm gonna keep messing with 426 so we can
Where are
get the one
going
out of it.
today? The bucket asked. Stanley just smiled. Anywhere they went together would be perfectly fine. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest.
Oh my
and entered the door and
god!
left.
The dialogue is so good. Silly birds.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
It's the last time we're putting this code in.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this but Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation.
Nice. I am not making the lights go this time because I just nah fam. It takes too long.
Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door
All right.
that read Mind Control Facility. The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley and the bucket both wondered to themselves.
So how'd you guys feel about the Silly Birds ending? I thought it was absolutely ridiculous and I love it.
The monitors jumped to life, and Stanley nearly dropped the bucket in
Crying, good.
Everyone in the office was being videotaped, monitored like guinea pigs.
We might finish this
Bucket
game
had
early.
never seen anything like this, and it very nearly burst into tears as Stanley cradled it gently, reassuring it that everything would be fine. Was
'Cause
the
we are
bucket
literally
under the
missing, like,
mind
2
control
endings.
Facility's influence as well? Had the bucket been told to do things it didn't wish to do? What kinds of things does a bucket want to do or not want to do in the first place? These questions raced furiously in Stanley's feeble mind. No! He screamed into the bucket. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control, never! He squeezed the bucket tighter, his one friend in the entire world. At this point, he could trust no one except for the bucket. But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions, happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he and the bucket would dismantle the controls for good. Two best friends, Stanley and the bucket, up against the world. They high-fived in a really cool way, and the bucket made a sassy comment about taking down the system.
All right. Let's see where this leads us now.
Stanley and the bucket waited in blackness. Was it over? Yes, they had done it. Stanley and the bucket had defeated their greatest and darkest enemy, freed themselves from the tyrannical grip of the evil mind control machine. Freedom was now mere moments away. Excitedly, the two of them began to discuss the kind of life they wanted to live once they stepped through this massive door. The bucket wanted to learn to roller skate. Stanley wanted to sneeze in every country on Earth. Both of them wanted to begin watching a movie, any movie, but then stop it halfway through and begin watching it in reverse from the end. True, it was a simple life they envisioned, but it was one they'd lived together, with one another to lean on, to trust, to support, and... What? Wait. What was happening? Why had the door stopped? Was Stanley and the bucket not about to be freed? An unbearable silence filled the room, lingering in uncertainty, until finally the truth hit Stanley square in the face. This building did not want the bucket to leave. Even the facility itself recognized the incredible calming presence of the bucket, needed the soothing warmth of the bucket, would go to any lengths not to part with the bucket. No. Stanley can't leave this place. Not while he has such a precious bucket in his arms. Not while this building has anything to say about it. Stanley realized he would never again leave this very room. But at least he has the bucket. To be trapped eternally in darkness isn't really so bad, Stanley thought to himself. As long as I have my bucket with me, right? I'll be okay, won't I? Stanley gulped. Very soon now, he was about to find out.
His bucket is gone. You hope it's a place with many buckets? Well, it seems like the bucket disappeared. Oh shit, hello? This is weird. This should allow me entrance into the whiteboard. Come on. One of you's gotta open for me. Vibrates angrily. What am I missing? What am I missing? Okay, hold on. Why won't you open? I'm gonna figure out how to get this to go. So I guess we just don't get this ending this
A
stream.
good bucket, a strong bucket, a humble bucket, a committed bucket, a bucket of culture and distinction.
A committed bucket. Let me into this room. Makes me mad. Okay, fine. I give that. Okay.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
Now we're going right.
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be.
Yeah, you need essentially what happens is you need the hall to be different
And
so
here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct?
It doesn't
Was
do
this-
it-
No,
it-
never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
Oh god, why are you glitching out?
And so the two of them detoured through the maintenance section and walked straight ahead to the opposite door.
There we go. I want to see how this goes. So essentially how this ending works, it's kind of like an ending, but kind of not. It's a non-ending. And there's something
Good
cool in
Stanley,
there.
I'm glad you found your way here. I knew you'd find this place eventually.
What?
You see, your friends and I are concerned for you, Stanley. We've come together here because we care about you very
broom
much.
closet.
It's this bucket you're carrying around everywhere. The bucket isn't even from the original Stanley Parable. It's just sequel content. We're the ones that matter, Stanley. Classic characters from the first game, like the Adventure Line and the Broom Closet. Because that's what fans want from a sequel. They want more of their favorite jokes, not this bucket that they've
We
never
love the
seen
bucket!
before. Yes, I know I'm the one who gave you the bucket, but you're spending too much time with it. Don't you want another story involving the Adventure Line? We could make the Adventure Line go somewhere new. Yes, yes, that's what the fans want. Let's do it. Whee! Look at that lovely line. Who knows where it'll go off to next?
Whee!
Oh, I played some silly music as well.
God, no! No!
Now this is what the Stanley Parable is all about. Don't you remember all those great jokes from the original dialogue?
Also, Stanley is addicted to drugs and hookers.
Yes, it's as classic now as it was back then. Let's do it for the fans, Stanley. Let's give them more content exactly like this. But if we want to do that, you're going to have to give something up.
No. It's my bucket. I get to keep my bucket.
Don't you get it, Stanley? We need to get rid of the bucket. That's why I'm very proud to introduce a brand new character. This is the Bucket Destroyer. I think it'll make a wonderful new addition to the rich lore of the Stanley Parable. True, it also was not in the original game, but it's such a well-fleshed-out character with so much personality that to me, it already feels as though it's been part of the cast all along. Don't you agree?
No.
Can you guess what the Bucket Destroyer does? Surely you don't need me to spell it out for you. Go ahead now, Stanley. Say goodbye to the bucket, and then pop it into the machine when you're ready.
No.
Now listen to me. It's crucial that you give it the bucket. I don't know what the Bucket Destroyer will do if it can't destroy your bucket. Destroying buckets is all it knows. That is its singular personality trait. Sure, I can hear you saying, how does a character with only one personality trait deserve to join the pantheon of beloved Stanley Parable characters? Well, you see, if you were to really explore the Bucket Destroyer, you would see that its desire to crush buckets is so densely loaded with complexity and nuance that it's really like 10 personality traits. What other object in this game can you even say that about? The broom closet? Certainly not. I wonder what sort of Bucket Destroyer merchandise the
God.
fans will be clamoring for after this.
No!
Okay, the Bucket Destroyer is getting very upset now. You'll have to hurry and feed it. We can't
Nope.
get back to the classic Stanley Parable characters like the Adventure Line or the Bucket Destroyer until you crush that damn bucket. Quickly now, the fans are waiting. Do it, the fans, Stanley. Give the fans what they want. Hurry and...
Shit! Oh no.
The Bucket Destroyer. My prized creation. You had so much potential. We were going to do such marvelous things with you, tell such spellbinding stories about you. All of it squandered now. Goodbye, new friend. For the moment in time that you were here, you were magnificent.
No! Not the Bucket Destroyer! Fucking cursed, all of this.
The meeting room. Yes, that's where everyone would be. Stanley just needed to get to the meeting room, and from then on, he would never be alone ever. Ah, the embrace of an old friend. A weathered companionship that stands the test of time.
Okay.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
Nah.
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be.
Second, stop it.
And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Was
Yes.
this better than the meeting room? Yes, Stanley thought to himself. Yes, perhaps it truly was. How insightful the bucket turned out to be. No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
No,
Said the bucket.
don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift, yes. Go there. Go to the cargo lift.
This way. I can't listen to the narrator. What am I, a Stanley? I'm adjusting. Hold on. It might be a bit. It might be a bit. Hold on. There we go. Now I am adjusted. She had a scarf. Oh, her. Little dork. I love her. We'll need to eventually. Yeah, we have time.
Okay, this is day number 295. Tape number... I don't even know. I've lost track. Nothing feels real anymore. The longer I study this bucket, the less sense anything makes. The sheer euphoria I feel every time I pick it up. No matter how many times I've done it, it's always the same feeling. And the emptiness in my chest when I set it down. It doesn't make sense. There's
Excuse me.
no explanation for it. I still haven't figured out why I see the world so differently when this bucket is in my arms. Why everything feels so... What do I do with this treasure? I can monetize it. Yes. It's unthinkable the amounts of money people will pay for even just an hour with the bucket. This is my golden ticket. But I have to be careful, because as soon as this gets out, there's going to be a target on my back. Even now, I don't know who might be trying to get... What's that? Who's there? Caporata.
Holy shit! What the fuck? What is that? Holy fuck. Okay.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps the bucket made Stanley want to be a better man and a better co-worker. In time, perhaps, he would become both of those things.
I see the hall is different again. Let me into this fucking room. Ah. Angie. It's like it's trying to give me the ending.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his... This was not the correct way to the
I
meeting
know,
room.
I know.
But Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
No,
Said the bucket.
don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The car...
But Stanley feared that any path he walked might lead to the separation of himself and the bucket, his dearest friend. So he threw himself to his death, that they might die in one another's arms. How deeply touching.
Okay. Now I'm gonna do the phone. Oh, you want me to feed the I don't think I can.
The meeting room. Yes, that's where everyone would be. Stanley just needed to get to the meeting room, and from then on, he would never be alone ever again. Not everyone is so lucky to have a bucket, but Stanley is a very lucky fellow. Very lucky indeed.
I don't like how he said very lucky.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his... This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be.
No, we've already gotten that dialogue.
And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct?
We already
Was
got
this-
it. Don't
No,
worry.
Never mind. The bucket was
Thank you,
wrong.
though. We appreciate it,
Stanley took the
Manager
door on his
Leon.
left to go back to the meeting room.
No,
We stood in
Said
the
the bucket.
broom closet with the
don't go to
bucket
the
for like
meeting room.
20
Go
minutes.
somewhere else. The cargo lift, yes. Good.
Said the bucket.
Now ride the lift all the way to the top. There's something up there I need you to do.
Stanley did not question why or how this bucket was speaking to him. It should have alarmed him, of course, because buckets can't talk. But Stanley chose not to think about this obvious fact. He was firmly convinced that the bucket had spoken to him, and he unthinkingly did whatever the bucket asked.
In here, said the bucket. Go into this dark room over here.
Stanley once again obeyed blindly.
All right.
Now pick up the phone.
Said the bucket.
All right, I'll pick up the phone
and
this
it will
time
take us
and then
back
unplug it
home,
next
where
time.
we can go about life together.
I love the sound
This
of the
is
bucket.
the sad story of a man named Stanley and his bucket. Once upon a time, I gave Stanley a bucket because I thought he was lonely and could use a friend. And then, very distressingly, he began to believe the bucket could speak to him.
Hello, Stanley. It's me, your bucket. Press right to take me to work with you.
The Stanley Parable Reassurance Bucket was merely meant to provide the comforting glow of companionship. It doesn't literally talk and give you orders. Whatever Stanley is hearing the bucket say to him is just in his head.
Press circle to take me back home with you.
Lately, I've been concerned about him. Wouldn't you be concerned as well? To see him delusional like this, obsessing over an inanimate metal object? I want to say something to him, but I don't know how I can convince him. I don't know if he'll listen to me. Oh, I'll try anyway. Stanley, can you hear me? Listen to me. It's just a bucket. It can't think, it can't talk. All it will ever truly do for you is effectively transfer a liquid from one location to a different location.
Sometimes that's all you
That's it.
need.
It doesn't do anything else.
Don't listen to the loud Nan. Press X for us to go back home.
You see, he's not listening. He's
Oh,
still
God.
taking orders from the bucket. You know, once upon a time, it was me he took orders from. Me he trusted and listened to.
Excuse
now,
me.
all he cares about is his awful bucket. This stupid hunk of metal. It's sad, but I suppose he doesn't need me anymore. From now on, he's just going to cling to this bucket, this cold, empty bucket, this sort of shiny bucket. Well, I'll give it this. The bucket does have a nice shine to it.
You believe I'm real, don't you, Stanley?
Yes, I suppose on closer inspection that it doesn't quite look like your average hardware store bucket. It's just a little more, what am I trying to say? Sturdier, more capable of transporting liquid. Like it would be better at moving an amount of water from one room to another. Oh my God, what am I saying? Better at carrying water from room to room. It's a bucket. It's literally just a bucket. Why do I feel some need to point out the ways in which it's so much more than just a regular bucket? Oh no. I'm having feelings for the bucket. No. What's going on? Why do I want to be with the bucket?
Jazz music.
Hear what the bucket has to say. Do anything it asks. What's wrong with me? I don't understand. Perhaps if I had the bucket, this would be less confusing. Yes. The bucket could tell me what to do in
What?
this troublesome
In
situation.
cookware.
Stanley, give me the bucket. Give it to me. Give me the bucket, Stanley.
No.
I need it.
No,
Give
it's
it to
my
me
bucket.
now. Give it or I'll...
It's my bucket! Go back to work, Stanley. What the fuck? What? Oh no! They turned on each other like a pack of dogs. All for a fucking bucket? Okay. I swear! Bro! Fine.
It's a lot of humility to carry a bucket so magnificent. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his
Right.
chest. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the
We're gonna
bucket
unplug the
calling to him,
phone.
telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be.
Went from he has issues to we have issues?
And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Was this no? Never mind. The bucket
Excuse me.
was wrong.
Why is the narrator
Stanley took the
low-key
door on his
relatable?
left to go back to the meeting room.
Excuse me. I keep burping. I'm so sorry.
No,
Said the bucket.
don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift, yes. Go there. Go to the cargo lift. Good,
Said the bucket.
now ride the lift all the way to the top. There's something up there I need you to do.
Stanley did not question why or how this bucket was speaking to him. It should have alarmed him, of course, because buckets can't talk. But Stanley chose not to think about this obvious fact. He was firmly convinced that the bucket had spoken to him, and he unthinkingly did whatever the bucket asked.
All the bucket endings are so good.
In here.
Said the bucket.
Go into this dark room over here.
Stanley once again obeyed blindly.
Now pick up the...
Whoa, hold on. Why did you unplug the phone? Were you trying to resist the bucket's orders? Stanley, I was joking. Obviously, the bucket isn't talking to you and telling you to do things. Buckets can't talk.
It was a joke. Don't you get the joke? It's funny, Stanley. A talking bucket.
Can't you see? Oh, goodness. I must have really bungled up the delivery if you actually took me seriously. Where did I mess up the joke? Should I have paused for longer or spoken quicker? Comedic timing is so difficult. I wish I were better at it.
Oh, no.
But there isn't exactly an instructional video
Oh,
on
no.
comedy that one can watch to fully... Oh, wait, yes, there is.
Oh no!
It's sitting right here. Let's take a look.
Is this the I'm Dunny with the funny?
What is comedic timing?
It
What
is.
is comedic timing? How does it work? How long should it last? How can it be used to effectively silence your political enemies? And more importantly, can it be taught in its entirety within 90 seconds? Thankfully, the answer to all of these questions is yes. Let's dive deeper. If you've ever told a joke or made someone laugh, in all likelihood, you did it while standing 50 to 80 centimeters from them in a room of no more than 76 degrees Fahrenheit, with one of your arms raised straight upward at a 15-degree angle from your body. These are the optimal conditions for good comedic timing. To begin the joke, start by stating and spelling your name. Next, provide a brief synopsis of the joke, including the specific times at which the recipient of the joke will laugh, and then spell out your name a second time. With these steps complete, it's time to begin the humor. Speak the entire joke in no more than 18 seconds and no less than 13 and a half, pausing only for bathroom breaks when necessary. When the joke has concluded, it is customary to inform your listener that the joke is over by declaring in your loudest possible voice, "I'm Dunny with the funny." Let's practice screaming, "I'm Dunny with the funny" now.
I'm Dunny with the funny! Incredible.
Good. This saying is a perfect example of expectations management, which is the cornerstone of good comedy. Finally, it's time to hand out surveys. Collecting hard data from your audience on how rapt they were throughout the joke is the only way to grow or learn as a comedian. An effective survey should be no less than 10 pages long and should include the same question reprinted several times, just to ensure the survey taker is actually paying attention and not simply filling in answers at random. And that's all there is. With these strategies at your disposal, you'll have audiences doubled over in laughter and even tripled over in laughter in no time at all. Just remember to let them stop laughing at some point, you gut-busting little scamp. After all, we're each of us needed on the front lines of the war to fight the 12-legged invader who threaten our very existence, and will very likely die in a hailstorm of bullets and mandibles. All of us must be prepared to give our lives to this noble cause, just as our children must do after us, and their children after them. Godspeed, and may Earth reign supreme.
Oh my god.
Hey, goodness, this video is a little outdated, isn't it? Well, no matter. I think the fundamentals of proper comedic timing are still as relevant today as they were back then. So with that in mind, I believe the only way forward is for us to return to the two doors and walk through all of this again, so I can try telling my story with more appropriate comedic delivery. Come along, let's head back. I can feel it. This time, I'm really going to nail the delivery. You'll be in stitches. A talking bucket, you'll say? How ridiculous. How absurd. What
Will
a
I?
hilarious concept. The king of comedy. That's what you'll call me. Thank goodness we had the instructional video. Otherwise, who knows where we'd be right now. Well, I wouldn't be the king of comedy, that's for sure. The bucket spoke to Stanley.
The bucket spoke.
The bucket spoke. Oh, I'll figure it out on the fly. No need to overthink things.
Excuse me. Drinking water. Okay.
Here we go. You ready? When Stanley and the bucket came to a set of two open doors, they entered the door on the left. What? We're back at the phone already? No, what's going on? There was supposed to be several rooms leading up to this. There was supposed to be a build-up to this point. A
Was there?
dramatic display of remarkable comedic wit, which culminates in this scene with the phone. But now the timing's completely off. The joke will never land. Well, not the way it was meant to. And it's all my fault. I must have forgotten that the phone room comes immediately after the two doors room. What an egregious mistake. I've made a fool of myself. I don't deserve the title of King of Comedy. I'm nothing. I'm not even the lowliest joke-telling whelp. I think I need to go back and rewatch that instructional video again. Yes, surely that will help me improve my... Here we go. You ready? When Stanley and the bucket came to a set of two open doors, they entered the door on the left.
No.
What? We're back at the phone already? No. Here we go. You ready? When Stanley and the bucket came to a set of two open doors, they entered the door on the left. What? We're back at the phone
Okay, so now I have to
already?
go. I have to
No.
go left now.
Here we go. You ready? When Stanley and the bucket came to a set of two open doors, they entered the door on the left.
All right, left.
No. You were supposed to go through the door on the right, leading back to the phone. Did you not even look at the instructional video? I think this is all covered very clearly. There's no way I can make the comedic timing work now. It's done. The joke is completely done and over. It's all your fault, Stanley. I'm going to be ridiculed in the community of other joke writers. I'm going to be shamed at every one of our meetings from now on. All because you couldn't watch a simple video and take a hint. Are you proud of yourself for bringing me down, Stanley? Are you
Yes.
proud?
Stanley, you love the bucket so much it's like you... it's as though all of your other most prized possessions pale in comparison. Yes.
God, that was a Cena joke.
I heard that you are pale with shame over how unabashedly in love with a bucket you are. No? Still not... Is it the delivery? Pale with shame. Pale with shame? Pale... What's another word to describe a bucket? Stanley, this bucket is so metal. I think I saw it playing guitar. No. We're getting away from making fun of Stanley's obsession with the bucket, which was the whole point of this. I'm no good at these jokes. I need more instructional videos. That's exactly what it is. That's what will make...
I don't think that's what's causing the problem, buddy.
More instructional videos. Let's see.
I love that these endings are basically the same with like minor changes in dialogue. We got 1 more hour until the last break, by the way, everybody. So just a heads up, that means only 4 hours left in the stream. Very exciting. And then tomorrow I think it's Stray, and if we have time left, endling. Although we might have time after this stream. But I might just end the stream early so I don't die.
All his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Still won't open.
Stanley cradled the bucket in a gentle embrace. Protective, yet delicate. Assertive, yet compassionate. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his... This was not the correct way to the meeting room.
Yeah, I know.
But Stanley had felt the
It's
bucket
no worries.
calling to him, telling him
I know where
that
I'm
the
going.
employee lounge was simply the
Through
place
here,
to be.
through here.
And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
No,
Said the bucket.
don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift, yes. Good.
Said the bucket.
Now ride the lift all the way to the top. There's something up there I need you to do.
Nah.
Stanley did not question why or how this
We're going
bucket
on the
was
bridge.
speaking to him. It should have alarmed him, of course, because buckets can't talk. But Stanley chose not to think about this obvious fact. He was firmly convinced that the bucket had spoken to him, and he unthinkingly did whatever the bucket asked. No, stop. Look there on the wall. You see, there's a sign right there. It says, "No buckets past this point." Stanley, how could you think it was okay to bring the bucket here? Unless, what if the problem is that you actually don't know what is a bucket and what isn't a bucket? I suppose that would explain a lot about your behavior up to this point. Which, if that's true, well, my goodness, I think we have to do something about it. This misunderstanding could have dire consequences on the entire rest of the game if not addressed quickly and properly. So much of the impact of the story is dependent on your understanding of what is and isn't a bucket. Please, step in here for a moment.
We're about to be taught what is and is not a bucket. Y'all excited? Oh no! Is this
Now
a
then,
bucket?
I'm going to run you through some test scenarios, and you'll tell me whether or not the thing I'm showing you is a bucket. Simple enough, right? This should tell us everything we'll ever need to know about what is or is not a bucket. Okay, let's begin. Item 1. Is this a bucket? Correct. It is a hologram of a bucket, not an actual bucket. Item 2. Is this a bucket? Correct. It is a 3D printed recreation of a bucket, not an actual bucket.
Bro.
Item 3. Is this a bucket? Correct. This is a bucket. Item 4. Is this a bucket? Are you hallucinating? This is a tractor. It's an enormous machine that tills the earth. I thought this was a gimmick. How on earth did you manage to screw it up? Absolutely incredible. Let's just move on to the next one.
This is a tractor. No, it's not. That's a bucket.
Is this a bucket? Correct. This is a bucket.
What?
Item 6. Is this a bucket? Trick question. Both. Gotcha. Item... Wait, hold on. I can't find the next one. Let me see. It should be around here somewhere. Okay, you and I both know there isn't anything here. And I don't appreciate the implication that nothing is a bucket when we both clearly know that a bucket is something, and therefore nothing could possibly be something. Unless, in your twisted mind, have you somehow convinced yourself that a bucket is nothing? Answer me straight, Stanley. Do you believe that nothing is a bucket? You know what? I'm too confused to even sort it out. I've lost all sense of perspective. What is a bucket? What isn't a bucket? Mere moments ago I could answer these questions with confidence. And yet now I'm somewhat adrift. Do any of us know what a bucket is? Am I a bucket?
Yes.
Stanley, I can't keep doing this. I'm losing myself, and myself was all I ever had to begin with. I'm afraid the bucket is threatening to tear our relationship apart. I can't have that. I'm sorry. But I'm going to erase all buckets from the game entirely. Okay, here we go.
No!
What happened? Is everything gone? Why did everything disappear? Wait, was everything a bucket? Every single thing in the game was a bucket. Oh my God, I had no idea. How could... except me. I'm not a bucket after all. And you, Stanley, you're still here. You're not a bucket either. Oh, this is wonderful news. We're not buckets. Yes, I actually feel much more at ease right now. It's delightful to get some clarity on that issue, but it doesn't change the fact that we haven't got a game. So, tell you what, I'll reset everything and we'll put back all of the buckets, okay? And we'll know that it's all a bucket. But if you run into anyone else, maybe don't mention that. Who knows what that information might do to a person? All right, here we go.
Oh boy. My elbow feels like it needs to pop, and I am struggling to get it to pop. Oh, oh.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean?
There
Stanley
it is!
decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Welcome to the whiteboard ending! There we go. That's all. That's what I wanted to show you guys, was that. We got dog mode now.
Stanley's bucket. The only co-worker he would ever truly need. Stanley pressed the bucket upon every little thing in the office. Nothing responded to the bucket. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Was no...
I don't feel like that's the end of that ending.
Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
No,
Said the bucket.
don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift, yes. Good.
Said the bucket.
Now ride the
Let's
lift
try that
all the way
ending
to
again.
the top. There's something up there I need you to do.
Stanley did not question why or how this bucket was speaking to him. It should have alarmed him, of course, because buckets can't talk. But Stanley chose not to think about this obvious fact. He was firmly convinced that the bucket had spoken to him, and he unthinkingly did whatever the bucket asked. No, stop. Look there on the wall, you see? There's a sign right there. It says, "No buckets past this point." Stanley, how could you think it was okay to bring the bucket here? Unless, what if the problem is that you actually don't know what is a bucket and what isn't a bucket? I suppose that would explain a lot about your behavior.
Alright, so we're just gonna begin the game again. And I'm gonna get the last figurine so that way I could get the figurine ending, but it looks like the Zen ending, the art ending, and the games ending don't work with the bucket. Instead, you just get a completely singular ending.
Wait, Stanley thought to himself. Am I sure that the
We already
orders
saw
stopped
this.
coming in? How is that possible?
We gotta leave the
They
bucket
never
behind this
stopped.
time.
Surely I was mistaken. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. It was okay. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
Nah.
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago. Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you've forgotten about. What? Really? I was in the middle of something. Do you have zero consideration for others? Are you that convinced that I want something bad to happen to you?
Yes.
Why, I don't know how to convince you of this, but I really do want to help you, to show you something beautiful. Look, let me prove it. Let me prove that I'm on your side. And there it is. The last Stiggly Wiggly. Savor this moment, Stanley. This is a real accomplishment. This is doing something just for the sake of doing it. Where so many people expect to be rewarded for the most trivial achievements, you've insisted that a job well done is its own reward. I would tell you that I'm proud of you for collecting them all, but that would be like a reward, and we can't have that. So, instead I'll just say, it's done. We're all done here. And now we can go to whatever the hell you were doing before you hunted for figurines.
Hey, yo.
Now listen carefully, this is important. Stanley walked through the red door.
Alright.
Oh, thank God you are willing to listen to me. Do you see that I really have wanted you to be happy all this time? The problem is all these choices. The two of us always trying to get somewhere that isn't here. Running and running and running, just the way you're doing right now. Don't you see that it's killing us, Stanley?
Is it?
I wanted to stop. We would both be so much happier if we just stopped. And I think I have a solution. Here, let me show you.
Okay. Where you taking me? I actually know where he's taking me. We already got this ending.
What do we want? What are we looking for? Here. Yes. Oh, it's beautiful, isn't it? If we just stay... No, wait. Where are you going?
To throw myself
no.
off of a ledge.
Stay away from those stairs. If you hurt yourself, if you die, the game will reset. We'll lose all of this.
That's okay.
Please, no, Stanley, let me stay here. Don't take this from me. Please, Stanley. No! Oh, no. No, no, what are you doing, Stanley? Please, I'm asking you not to take this away from me. I can't go back to what I was before.
That's okay.
If you die, we'll both go back.
That's
Why
all
are you
right.
doing this?
It'll be fun. Yeet!
Stanley, let's go back to the other room.
Nah.
My God, is this really how much you dislike my game?
No,
That you'll
I
throw
love your
yourself from
game.
this
That's why I want to
platform
play it
over and over
again.
To be rid of it? You were literally willing to kill yourself to keep me from being happy.
No.
Am I reading the situation correctly?
No, we're happier together.
Or maybe you're just getting a kick out of it.
A little
I
bit.
don't know anymore. I just wanted us to get along. But I guess that was too much to ask.
Maybe a little bit.
It looks like you wanted to make a choice after all. Well, this one is yours.
He sounds so sad and dejected. This is probably like my least favorite ending.
Is it over? It's going to restart, isn't it? I'm going back.
All right, and now we should get the collectible ending. And then after that, it's just the epilogue at that point, I believe. Excuse me.
Stanley, I'm sorry, but I have to put a pause on things. It's those figurines. Those figglers. I haven't stopped thinking about them since you nabbed every last one. Wasn't it just the most intrinsically fulfilling moment of your entire life? Didn't it fill you to the brim with inner richness? Yes, I know we're supposed to be telling a story, but won't you please indulge me with one more trip back to the memory zone? I would love nothing more than to revisit the figurines. Just one more time.
All right. The memory zone.
Here's where it all began. The first collectible. Back then, we had no idea of how many of them we'd find. Sure, it said 6 right there on the screen, but how could we know for certain? We were so innocent. We'll never be like that again, Stanley. And here was a second Stan Loreen. I'll be honest, back then I had no faith in you to find any of them, let alone 6. But you continue to surprise me in all sorts of mundane, unremarkable ways. Okay, let's do a little quiz. Which of these rooms was the room you found your third mini Stan? Can you remember?
It was the boss's bathroom. We only did it like an hour ago.
Hey, that's exactly right. It was here in the boss's bathroom. It was the third one. You picked it up, and then after that, you had 3 of them. I'm glad these moments are so crystal clear in your memory, but I shouldn't be surprised. After all, science tells us that it's impossible to forget your third time doing anything.
Really?
Let's see.
Is that actual
Okay,
science?
Oh yes, we found a Figley in this pink room. Oh,
No, we
well,
didn't.
I can't actually say I remember being in this room, but it's here in the memory zone, so it must have happened.
That's not right.
This was the 5th mini Stan, and this one was really something special. It was behind the boss's office. I remember it so clearly. In fact, because this one is particularly special to me, I made a little video to commemorate the occasion.
What?
Enjoy.
Oh my god! No! No, not the PowerPoint! Windows Movie Maker! Thanks for watching! Best boy!
Takes you back, doesn't it? I spent a lot of time making that video, but it was 8 minutes I wouldn't have spent on anything else.
That was 8 minutes?
And then, Stanley, then we came to the last collectible, the final figurine, right here by the red and blue doors. This memory is the most distinct and clear in my mind, perhaps because it was the one that happened more recently than all the others. Who can truly say how the mind works? All I know is that this is the moment where you picked up a Figley and I thought to myself, yes, that's all of them. They're all collected. It was a moment unlike any other. Except for the other moments picking up figurines, which it was exactly like.
What is this?
And then there was no more, because we've caught up to the present moment. Nothing left to do but move onward into the future. Goodbye, Memory Zone.
Oh, well, alrighty then.
No, I'm not done. I'm not ready to move on.
Oh.
Stop the loading screen. Isn't there some way we can stay here, keep enjoying these figurines? Let's just go backwards. We'll do the Memory Zone again from the opposite direction. See how that feels.
Okay.
Okay, yes, the room with the red and blue doors. I remember this. I must say, of all the figurines we looked at in our initial tour of the Memory Zone, this one is the most distinct and clear in my mind. Let's keep going, I want more. And here's where I made that video. Don't you remember the video we watched?
Oh my god! So fast!
Yes, I love that video. Still don't remember the pink room, Stanley. Still no memory of this one. Good room, though. A solid room. These really were a treat to hunt down. You know, if there had been any kind of reward for finding all of these, it really would have neutered the intrinsic joy of collecting them. I'm very glad we resisted the temptation. Next one. This was our second Figley. Don't you remember? Yes, I remember it too. The past is truly a wonderful thing. Why does anyone ever choose to leave it? Keep going. This is it, the very first one we found in the exhibit where I introduced you to the figurines. Oh, I want more memories, Stanley. I want to keep going. What else is there? What came before this?
Alright, you wanna see what came before this? Cause it was fucking nothing.
Look, it's the terrible new content that we were originally sold on. I remember hating it back then, but time does put a rosy filter on everything. In fact, I dare say I'm actually quite fond of it now. Look how much fun the past is. Oh, yes, the two doors. Who could have forgotten that? A classic memory, this one. And before everything else, there was your office. Is there anything else? Was there something that came before your office? There's something I feel I can remember. I can remember. Yes, I'm remembering something now. I remember before this whole story got started. Back then I was different. I used to make big decisions. I was passionate. I was skeptical. I weighed each decision with profound thoughtfulness. And then somewhere along the way, I stopped making decisions. I became lazy, and I came up with a character named Stanley to do my thinking for me. He would make the decisions. He would decide which way to go. I would cheer him on as he collected figurines for no reason. Why did I invent Stanley? Was I lonely? Yes, perhaps that's it. Perhaps I needed to imagine I had companionship. And Stanley really did make for a wonderful companion, even if he was a fiction. But I suppose it's grown old. I want to think for myself again. I want to go back to how it used to be. Yes, I can be on my own again. I can do it. I'll be stronger this time. I'll take care of myself. I don't need Stanley anymore. Oh, but he truly was so much fun to play with. You know what? Since we're in the memory zone, how about one more good memory? Let's go back just once and give Stanley one more run of the office, and then I'll retire him for good. I did enjoy telling his story so very much. Okay, here we go. This is the story of a man named Stanley.
Oh. Here we are again. Alright, so now it's just the epilogue. Excuse me. So apparently we have to go to the menu for this one. Excuse me. I don't know why I'm burping so much. Apparently it's in here somewhere. Let me see. Trying to see. How to unlock this. All right. Okay. Okay, so hold on. We're gonna do a thing, but I need to turn off the rips off for my personal health and wellness. Okay, so I got to close this out. Can't believe I have to close out the fucking game. All right. I have to close it out the game multiple times. All right, so 3 different conversations with somebody when the game first boots up. The first is done by setting a unique time, which I did. We'll do like 9 a.m. No, we'll do like... What is the unique time? Hold on. It's done by setting a unique time the second time you turn on the game. So it is... We'll just put the actual time that the console is set to. Okay, it says hang on, hang on. Before we get started, can I just say something? When I first asked you to input the time, you said 12 o'clock, and I'll be honest, I was disappointed. You couldn't have taken 10 seconds to input the correct time. No, you simply rushed ahead with the default value. But then this time, when you booted up the game, you entered 3:28 p.m., an actual time. I see now that you are taking this seriously. It must have actually been 12 o'clock when you first played the game. It's very silly of me to get mad at you for that. I apologize for the hostility. Tell you what, by way of an apology, I'll make you the deal. Next time you boot up the game and see the screen, just set the clock to your favorite time. Go ahead, pick whichever time you want, even if it's not the correct time. I'll let one slide just for you. How's that sound? Glad we're on the same page again. Alright, I'll let you get back to the video game now. That's cute. Okay. Okay. So now it'll open up the main menu. You guys didn't see any of that. It was just a black screen with white text. Alright. Close the application again. Then we go in again. First is done by setting a unique time, the second time you turn on the game. The second is done by selecting your favorite time anytime. The third time is selecting various sliders until the person tells you that they will meet again sometime. And then we've already gotten the collectibles ending. God, this game is so good. I don't know what my favorite time is. I would say 3 a.m. 3 a.m., your favorite time of day. Or could you simply not resist giving me the correct time again? After all, I know how much you enjoy setting the time correctly. Okay, now I'm curious how accurate 3 a.m. is. Let's use another slider to find out. How accurate is 3 a.m.? You know, can I just say, regardless of the accuracy of the clock, I'm having a great time adjusting these settings. I feel like I'm learning more about you and how you like things to be set. It's good to collect data. I wish we had more sliders, but we've gone through all the sliders I have. Perhaps I can invent some new sliders to gather data on you. Shouldn't be too hard. Yeah, let me whip a couple new ones up. Should be ready by the next time you boot the game. That's so cute! Okay. Okay. I'm reading it in the narrator's voice, so I feel like this is the narrator talking. Honestly. Alright. Last one. It's just a bunch of sliders. And then I'll close the game out and then boot it up one more time. Turn on the ripsaw so you guys could see. And then hopefully the epilogue will be ready. Please adjust the slider until the computer is barely visible. Okay. Please adjust the slider until the dog and cat are friends. Please adjust the slider until the number 5 becomes the number 9. Please adjust the slider until you stop adjusting the slider. Which of the two made-up words below is most appealing to you? Occuboinkal. Please don't adjust this slider. Do you know what time it is right now? Yes. Is the time that it is right now the correct time? Yes. What is time anyway? Yes. Is there anything about yourself that you haven't told me? No. Help. Yes. Will you come back to visit me? Yes. Okay. So now... Not yet. Okay, hold on. Imagine if you chose no for the last one. Right? I could never. I feel like it's the narrator, and I like the narrator. I think he's cool. I think he's very nice. And that Stanley's kind of an asshole, because we're assholes. What time is it? Does anyone really truly know? Of course they don't. Nobody knows anything. You and I don't even know each other. We're like strangers. Sure, I've adjusted all the game settings to your exact specifications, but who hasn't? It's just what I do, like a day job. And now the job's over. There's no more information for me to gather. I've collected all the data on you that I can. And I still don't really know you. And you don't know me. And neither of us know what time it is. I guess some settings are just unsettable. But if I'm being totally honest, the clock doesn't do anything in the game anyway. You won't have me here when the game starts next time, but that's okay. Video games were meant to be played alone. You like being alone, don't you? That's maybe the only information I've really learned about you. Well, it's time for me to leave. There's still one more setting that we need to adjust, but it may take a little time before I'm ready for that. I'm not really in my job description, but that's okay. Perhaps you'll see me again, if you can find me. Talk soon. There it is. Now we've got the epilogue. All right, this is the last ending. And then after this, we've 100%ed the Stanley Parable. Many, many years later. Oh, God. I'm guessing this is after the button ending. The one where you escape the facility thing. Whoa. I wish the bucket could see this too. The bucket would have loved this. Is this the memory palace? The memory place? There's a generator still running. This is spooky. Cookie Nine's blog! Uncompromising gaming content. Review. Stanley Parable 2. Like so many, I enjoyed my time with the original Stanley Parable, which underscores how truly disappointed I am with its sequel. Where the first game teamed with originality, the Stanley Parable 2 is dull, uninspired, and often insulting to its fan base. Rather than expand on what made the first game enjoyable, the sequel veers off into territory nobody asked for. An infinitely deep hole? Who cares? There are the new endings. What about enjoyable bits from the Stanley Parable 1, like the adventure line? Instead, we get an uninspired side quest collecting figurines. Even this diversion feels incomplete. Collecting all the figurines gives you nothing. I must say, though, I found the bucket to be quite comforting, a welcome reprieve from... Stanley Parable developers. No more spin-offs, no more sequels. When the Stanley Parable launched to massive success in 2013, its creators made plans to build the property into an entire franchise. But a disastrous critical and commercial reception to the Stanley Parable 2 has prompted the developers to rethink their ambitions, as outlined in a press release they published today. It's clear that more Stanley Parable is just not what the fans want, reads the press release. We thought that we had a vision for the series that players would be excited about, yet it turns out this could not have been further from the truth. The press release goes on to promise to preserve the artistic integrity of the original game and to stop assaulting fans with our reckless and insulting creative visions. The word sorry appears more than 25 times in the press release. Lowest aggregate review scores in video game history. Interesting. Do they all say Jim?
Jim.
They do.
Jim.
There are the figurines. The number just keeps going up. Oh. Thank you for enjoying the new content. Hello again. It's nice to see you. But it's terrible to learn that there will never be another Stanley Parable game. Did you read what the developer said? Preserve the integrity of the franchise? What nonsense! The Stanley Parable is not sacred. We do not need to protect it. Screw the legacy. Let's keep making Stanley Parable games until the sun explodes. Let's run this franchise into the ground. Let's drag it through the mud and back. And if people hate it, who cares? You see, that was the narrator's problem. He was so obsessed with what people thought of his work. Don't make his mistake. Don't cling to his legacy. Don't cling to the legacy. Let it burn. It's not hard. In fact, let me show you. Together, we are going to make the Stanley Parable 3. It's simple. All we do is change the number in the game's title screen. We also need a really dumb subtitle for the game, something loud and gaudy. Go ahead, try combining some random words together to make a new title for our game. It's either me or the lawsuit. The Stanley Parable 3, it's either me or the lawsuit. It's absurd. I love it. Every time you restart the game, we'll advance the number of the sequel by 1, and then we'll pick a new subtitle. That way, the Stanley Parable will never end. And nothing in the game itself will change when you do this either. Adding more content sounds like work. No need to do that. It'll just be the same content recycled again and again and again with a new title screen. What do you say? Should we go forward with this plan? I like it, but I want you to have a say as well. Let's do it. Good, then it's agreed. A new sequel every time you start the game. And you know what? Since you put faith in my idea, I feel like giving you something as well. You see, I'm noticing that the narrator never found a way to give you the broken trophy, did he? Of course not. I wouldn't expect him to know how. It's been bothering me. Let's fix it. Alright, there. The trophy machine's all fixed. You see, I'm on your side. We're in this together. We're going to keep this train rolling. The Stanley Parable cannot end. It can only spiral in on itself, forever. I must keep the wheel turning. I'm ready. Are you ready? Great, there's only one last thing we need to do. Please enter the current time. Please adjust the slider until the computer is barely visible. Thank you. Please enjoy the Stanley Parable. That's sombering. Oh my god! Oh, that's incredible. Well, there it is. The Stanley Parable. Beep beep. Okay. So we've been going on for 9 hours. We've started Celeste. We started Endling. I don't know if I want to go back to Endling right now. So I might just end the stream early. I know I said I'd be going on for 12 hours, but it just feels like a good place to just end it. A good early day. Just because I've been going for a while. And I need some rest. So yeah, what do you guys think? What are your thoughts on that? Should I go and play Endling? Or should I end it here? Thoughts, opinions, feelings, emotions. I think it would be a good time to end. All the same, I wouldn't mind hanging out longer. Ending is very feel good if it isn't too stressful to partially destim to. Alright then, I think we'll end it. I'll find somebody to raid. Let's see. Let's see. Pudge is live. I'll send you guys over to the Pudge Possum. So thank you guys so much for coming to the stream today. It truly was wonderful to see you all. We're gonna be live again tomorrow for Stray. So if that's something you're interested in, please tune in. It'll be a good time. It'll be a great time, in fact. And then at the end of Stray, because we're probably gonna finish that, we are going to hop back in with Endling and finish that up. Hopefully. I would do it now, but I'm not feeling it. So yeah. Thank you guys so much for coming. Thank you for joining us for day 4 of the follow-a-thon. And I'm so excited to see you guys for day 5. We're almost through the entire marathon. So it's going to be a really fun time when we get to the end. So give it up for day 15. So yeah, with all that being said, take care of yourselves and each other. My shopties, you mean the world and underworld to me. And I'll see you next time. Senepsi.